If you're just joining us, this is the news of the morning. The Fulton County judge there said he would give a decision within 2 weeks, and today was the timeline for that, as he spoke with a local TV station just this week, saying Friday is the day, and now we have the answer. He's giving Fani Willis the option to either stay or go. If she stays, Nathan Wade will not be with her. If she goes, they're both off the case here. Our team is still lined up here trying to analyze this and go through the decision, and there's still more information coming in about this. Andrew Chikaski here in New York. Can we call for number 3? So this is a big part of the case, and that was the trips they took, many trips, and they testified that they paid each other in cash and everything was on the up and up. But you see all the Lux travel, as we call it, Norwegian Cruise Lines, Royal Caribbean Cruises, Freedom of the Seas, and on and on and on. What did the judge determine about these trips together?
So the judge actually goes through and makes some findings about the trips and the various costs of the trips. But here on page 7, he says, such a reimbursement practice may be unusual and the lack of any documentation corroborating understandably concerning, yet the testimony withstood direct contradiction, was corroborated by other evidence, and was not so incredible as to be inherently unbelievable. So the judge is critical of it, but it wasn't enough to create an actual conflict. The judge also says that it's a matter of a few $100s that essentially Willis would have benefited from in the course of these various trips, with the money going back and forth. So not particularly persuaded by it, but certainly recognizes that there was a lot of back and forth there.
I mean, we all remember those discussions about the flights of wine tasting, the caviar, the Grey Goose vodka, because she doesn't like wine, which a lot of people thought, was sort of a strange departure for her to be elaborating on in this environment. But as you point out, they went through painstakingly, this is how much I paid him back, this is how much the trip cost, and in the end, according to what they testified, and it sounds like the judge is going along with their testimony here. And then it was corroborated, I guess, by her dad, that she has a lot of cash that she keeps in the house. So that's what he's saying, all added up.
The judge is saying it just wasn't enough for that to be the actual conflict. I mean, the judge had to go through a painstaking effort, I think, in order to keep her on the case. He had to essentially say that these facts just didn't matter, or didn't matter enough in order to disqualify her. And that's what he's saying. He's saying the same thing about the actual romantic relationship. A romantic relationship between prosecutors isn't inherently a conflict of interest. It must be wrapped into an improper benefit or an improper purpose.
And it's really, the romantic relationship is irrelevant if there's not a financial gain being made by it, because that's the state money, right?
That's right.
So that's the relevant point, whether or not.
But she pulls Nathan Wade, an attorney who was schooled in a much different kind of law than this. And the allegation is that she was helping out her romantic partner and giving him business on a very high-profile national case.
I think she's just discredited herself so much through the course of this. The judge says that it's not enough to actually kick her off the case, but I think in the eyes of the public, the faith in the impartiality of the prosecution is a real problem at this point. The judge doesn't pull many punches in that regard either. He really does call her out for conduct that falls below the expectations of a prosecutor. He just doesn't go so far, and I think he's saying that his hands are a bit tied based on the precedent and the law in Georgia, that his hands are tied to actually take such a dramatic step. And it would be a very dramatic step to pull off an entire DA's office from a prosecution of a big case. That doesn't happen often.
Are you surprised by this? What did you think?
I'm a bit disappointed by it, because I think that the judge is turning his head to a few major issues. Not only is it the money, not only is it the relationship, not only is it the lies that seem to have occurred in court, it's also improper speech that was given to that congregation in January. It's the nature of their overall demeanor in the courtroom. I think as a judge, you can say at a certain point, this has interfered with the confidence we have in the prosecution that takes place.
It's like, finding 2 people in a bank vault and taking one off to jail. I mean, the question is, the appearance problem that the judge identified with regard to Wade was directly related to his relationship with Willis. Only one of them was disqualified. And so that's going to lead to these questions. I mean, well, why should Willis escape that same penalty? The opinion leaves us feeling like the court went and shot the wounded.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
It's not about justice, it's not about agenda, it's not about mobilizing people, it's about dialing for corporate dollars. These two parties have sold the U.S. government and the American people to the highest bidders.